Good morning. At this time, I'll call the Crow Wing County Regular Board Meeting for April 27th, 2021 into order. And with that, if you would stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, first order of business, I'd like to welcome Commissioner Coring back to the boardroom. He had his time in the sunshine, and he's back with us now. He can enjoy our weather for a while. And with that, we'll move on to our number 2 item, which is open forum. If there's anyone out there in the public who would like to speak to something other than what's on our published agenda, this is your opportunity. There's no one out there who would like to speak. We'll move to number 3, which is review and approve the minutes from April 13th, 21.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Coring makes a motion to approve. Commissioner Franzine seconds that motion. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
When we're all in the room, do we have to?
I'm not sure. Do we have to call a roll just because it's not open to the public? Okay. Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. That motion passes. Number 4, review and approve the agenda for today.
So moved.
Commissioner Franzine makes a motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Hoag seconds that motion. Therese, if you'd call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. That motion passes. We're now on to the consent agenda. And before we get into this, I do have one question for Mr. Bowen. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Number 5.10 on our consent agenda is the agreement to participate in a grant.
Correct.
And there's a $20,000 share that goes into this.
Correct.
Is this something we do on a yearly basis?
So on a yearly basis, we normally do it's called EMPG, Emergency Management Performance Grant. It's federal funds that get passed.
If I can just stop you for a second, John?
Yep.
Would you please take your mask off because it's kind of muffling
Yes,
what
sir.
you're saying?
On an annual basis, we do get called an EMPG, which is the Emergency Management Performance Grant. It's federal dollars that are passed down through the state. It is a 50-50 match, which we've done since I've been here for 16 years. Every county in the cities of the first class in Minnesota get awarded that, and it's based off population, tax base. It really helps out our program. What they did in 2020 was, because of COVID, they did a supplemental grant in addition to that. So what this is an additional $20,000 that we did match already from last year. So it's actually helping our program out because we already spent those dollars. And they also said we could use CARES dollars last year towards that match, if that makes sense. So this is an addition to last year we got a $40,000 grant, and this is additional $20,000 to help out our program.
For 2021.
Well, we can use it for 2021. This 20, it says 2020 EMPGS. It can be used from last year through 2021. So it is good for this year as well. There was some lag time from the state rolling out these federal funds.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen.
Second.
Motion to approve the consent agenda by Commissioner Coring, seconded by Commissioner Franzine. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. That motion passes. And let's see what time we're at here.
It's 9:05.
9:05.
Mr. Chair, I would so move that the board go into a virtual public hearing for the petition to change the name of Rat Lake to Little Osawanomaki Lake.
Motion by Commissioner Coring to go into a public hearing.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Brecken. Therese, if you'd call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. We are now in our public hearing, and I believe the petitioner, Mr. Diem, is on the line and joining us by
I am.
Teams.
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yep.
So, Mr. Diem, if you would just acknowledge where you live in the county, and with that, you may speak to this.
Yes, I live at 11603 Fawn Lake Road in the city of Breezy Point. It says Cross Lake on our mailing address, but I think that's due to where I live. But yes, I live in the county. I just wanted to say good morning and thank you for taking the time to consider the petition I'm bringing forth to you. Again, my name is Jared Diem, and I've lived at this residence since 2003 on Rat Lake. The name of the lake is why I am speaking to you today. Most of the lake shore owners and I have created a petition to change the name of Rat Lake to Little Osawatomie Lake. We have discussed this for many years. I think maybe due to COVID, when we had some downtime to do things, it just came up a little bit more, but it's been something we've talked about for a while. Not only does the word rat convey a negative association to our lake and our surrounding area, but there is also another lake named Rat in Crow Wing County in Jenkins. And there's over 15 rats, I believe, in the state of Minnesota. Rat Lake is fed by Lake Osawatomie and is long and narrow, much like Aussie. So Little Osawatomie would be a great fit akin to Little Pelican and Big Pelican Lake. We needed 15 signatures, and I made sure that I talked to all the lake shore owners and all the people who lived across the lake so that I could hear their input as well. My neighbor Don Olson said it really well that, and you have his letter, that we certainly see more swans and otters and ducks and beavers and eagles more than anything else around our lake community. And I just thank you all for taking the time to hear my petition out and talk about it.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question, this gentleman? As you talked to people, you said across the lake and around the lake, any opposition?
Yep.
Anybody opposed to changing the name that you found?
Well, there's 9 lakeshore owners and six owners said yes. One of the owners is a rental, and so I tried on numerous times to get a hold of the person who owned the rental, but I don't think they live in the county. I think so. I exhausted as much time. The other 2, they almost seem to speak like a no position, like the city of Breezy Point had. They didn't say no or yes, but they just said they have no opinion.
Okay, thank you.
And before we proceed, Therese, there was the legal description isn't accurate, and I believe you have
Yes, when it was sent to the DNR for review, they found that there was an error in the legal description, and it was listed in the petition and the public hearing notice, and it had already been published in the paper the 3 times and everything. So they said it would be okay to just say it here at the meeting, and it'll be in the resolution. And so Rat Lake, which is the DNR Division of Waters number 18-344, is located within sections 1 and 2, Township 136, range 28, within the city of Breezy Point, not section 36, Township 137, range 28, as was listed in the public hearing notice. And I do have Pete Boulay from the DNR is on the line, if you'd like to hear from him at all.
commissioners.
Got anything to say, I guess?
He usually gives just a little, like, yes, we agree, or
Okay.
not, so.
Okay.
Pete, do you want to say something?
Okay. Sure. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, my name is Pete Belay, and I'm the Geographic Names staff for the DNR, 500 Lafayette Road, St. Paul. Thank you for hosting this public hearing today. The feature to be renamed is in Section 1 and 2 of 136 North, Range 28 West, City of Breezy Point. The petitioners are seeking to rename the lake Rat Lake, and I'm glad I heard the pronunciation. I wasn't sure. I figured when they called the short term Aussie, I figured it was Osawatomie, so that's always good to have the phonetic spelling of it. This would be a unique name, Little Owissamakee, I gotta say it right, Owissawinnamaki Lake, would be a unique name for a lake in the state of Minnesota, and the DNR would accept this name. And if the board has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair, the only question I have is who's the weather guy picture behind you?
Dennis Felton, an oldie from the olden days. I'm a meteorologist, so
Oh,
you know,
okay.
my other hat is weather, so I
Okay.
kind of have my weather stuff.
All right, hearing no questions, do we have a motion then to go back into regular session?
Anybody else that's
Is there-
here to speak?
Well, is there anybody else to speak?
Mr. Chair, there's no one else on the line, and we did receive 2 letters of support that were in the packet. Other than that,
Noted.
that's all we got.
Mr. Chair, I would so move that we close the virtual public hearing on the petition to change the name of Rat Lake to Little Osawatomie Lake.
Commissioner Coring makes the motion to close the public hearing,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Brecken. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. Now, at this time, we would look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to change the name of Rat Lake in the city of Breezy Point to Little Osquawanna Lake.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Brecken, second by Commissioner Franzine. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
The chair votes aye on that one. Thank you very much. That motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Diem. Appreciate it.
Thank you all. I appreciate your time.
Item number 7, Land Services, Landfill Reimbursement Policy.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For your consideration this morning, we have the landfill reimbursement policy. So in little history of 2019, you guys adopted a policy to refund tipping fees for nonprofit organizations. So we had a 1-year trial period. We had 2 applications in 2019. One was approved, rebated $1,000. One was denied. They didn't have some community outreach, really. So we brought this back at the last board meeting, and it was tabled for Land Services to see if there were other things to consider to bring a broader approach to some of the nonprofits that are in our community providing community volunteer outreach or projects. And so today before you, we have drafted a policy that would allow up to $1,000 and cap the total expense out of this program to $5,000. Bring it back to you guys next January to see if you still continue to support, if you like what the outcomes were, and reassess it at that time.
Questions?
So,
Commissioner
Mr. Chair and Gary, so the total program would only be $5,000. So if we had 5 applicants or 10 applicants and it totaled $5,000, we're not going to go over that, right?
Correct.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Mr. Chair, who took benefit of that refund?
Sure. The one and only that got the 1,000 was Salem West over in Deerwood was the organization.
How do you notify the organization? I'm thinking of Salvation Army as an example.
We could definitely send letters out to folks that we believe could qualify. Originally, we did send, I believe, out to 7 or 8 organizations at that time in 2019.
Could I ask another question?
Commissioner Coring?
So, do we have to pay, when I say we, the county, do we have to pay, I think we pay sales tax on that, or don't we have to pay some expense to the state on that?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Coring, that is correct. We have to pay for everything that's thrown in the landfill. there's a 17% charge for a greater Minnesota landfill tax, basically, which goes to the state or the MPCA, and they spend it how they see fit.
So regardless, if we're, giving something away free, nothing's really free. We're still having to pay that. Even if we have a road ditch pickup program and that garbage is picked up by volunteers and it's brought in, that's still got to be accounted for and we have to pay the tax on that, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions?
No questions. I think just a comment quick that this new policy, or a little bit revised, I think opens up the original policy to allow some of these smaller, maybe not as organized groups that are trying to help the community, save some cost on their efforts. So I like that addition to it. I guess to Paul's question, the 17% on 5,000 would be the max. I don't know what the math is on that, but again, fairly small amount of money, I think, for the benefit of the county. If you look at some of the local groups that are out picking up ditches or areas that just clean up the area, I support the project, I guess.
And Mr. Chair, could I just request that we do have this come back in a year, so it doesn't, so that you mark it down that it would be a review in a year just to see how it's going?
Absolutely.
So it doesn't just like continue on in perpetuity, and so if I could make that request, that would be great.
So seeing no other questions, I would look for a motion to approve the landfill reimbursement policy with the restriction that it comes back in a year for review.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Hoag,
Second.
second by Commissioner Coring. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye, that motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary. On to number 8. 8.1 is the Sourcewell Community Impact Funds for Local Governments Grant.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Before you today, we have requests. Part of the requirement from Sourcewell when we do grants in the past is to have a resolution from your county board in support and allowing us to apply for this community grant. This Community Solutions Grant, what we were planning on doing, what we'd like to do is to enhance our Crow Wing County Unmanned Aerial System program. What we'd like to do is apply for a grant to upgrade some of our equipment, also get some software where we can actively track our drones in real time, and we can also stream real time pretty much anywhere you'd like to stream it. And if we have other counties that come in that have the same drones that we do, they can also hook up to that system and we can use their equipment along with ours at the same time. So this is just an opportunity for us to apply for the grant to enhance our program going forward. So that's what I'm asking you today. If you have any questions on our UAS program and some of the things we're looking at doing going down the road, I've been more than willing to answer your questions.
I do have a question. Is this is there a share portion that goes with this grant?
There is not. Originally, we started our UAS program back in 2017, and this is Sourcewell, which was NJPA at the time, was the organization that really got our program up and running. We could not have done it without them. This is not a match. We do have to fill out the grant, and we do have to put our in-kind donations in there, so we look at our time that our operators or our pilots put into the program, and that all goes to show that we have a sustainable program, and we're not trying to, this grant isn't to sustain our program, it's to enhance it. We're self-sustainable as of right now.
Mr. Chair, John, I don't see a dollar amount. How is that determined?
That's determined on our equipment. We're still working that out. We're looking at roughly right around 100,000 on this grant. So that's kind of our goal right now, but again, the grant's not due for a few weeks, but we're still trying to work out the fine details of it as well.
So they'll be considering these on June 9th.
Correct.
When
So-
is the potential,
But the potential is that you fill out the grant, and if it meets the requirements of Sourcewell through their board, then it goes to the panel. In the years past, I used to call it the Innovation Funding Grant, where all the counties within the Sourcewell region come together, you do a presentation, and then your peers vote on if this is a project that should be awarded by Sourcewell.
so when would the dollars come if they were awarded?
I believe in 2017, it was roughly July. I think it's after the state fiscal year, so it had to be after July 1st.
Okay, so fairly quickly after
Correct.
June. Any other questions? Now I would look for a motion to approve the resolution, approval of submission of Sourcewell Community Solutions Grant.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Franzine makes the motion to approve,
Second.
second by Commissioner Hoag. Therese, if you'd call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. That motion passes. Thank you,
Thank you.
John. County Attorney,
Nope.
not on the line. County Administrator, Mr. Hool.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. There was a senior management team meeting yesterday, and I bet you can't guess what we talked about. COVID and vaccinations. Happy to say that our case rate, which had been climbing, appears now to have plateaued and is slightly declining. I'd really love to see that come down a little bit further. Vaccination rates, only Aiken and Crow Wing County of the surrounding counties continues to exceed the state average. I would expect that that might change, where Crow Wing will slip below the state average as the rest of the state is catching up. I think it's an indication of just how strong the partnership was between Essentia and CRMC and our local pharmacies and public health. We were fast out the gate. And the rest are catching up now. And so I would expect we might fall with vaccine hesitancy below the state average. I would expect to see that in the coming weeks and months. So right now we are at a point, I think, where it's fair to say that if you're interested in a COVID vaccine, it's a walk-up opportunities are available in our community. We're still seeing fairly high traffic, but a lot of folks that are coming from the metro here to get vaccinated because they have a difficult time, a more difficult time in the metropolitan area than they do out here at this point. We also talked about the ARP funds. That's the American Rescue Plan. It's the federal stimulus bill that was passed, and trying to put together a process for your consideration of ideas that folks have for the use of those funds for our own purposes. So are there projects or capital equipment that would be useful and beneficial for us for the long term that's COVID related that we could fund through that? So we're talking about what does that process look like and beginning that. We're going, of course, much more slowly with the ARP funds than we had been with the CARES Act, and it's because we have so much more time. With the CARES Act, we had about a 6-month window that we had to expend the funds, and the ARP funds have until the end of 2024, so we can be a little bit slower. There is not as great a rush. We do not yet have those funds in hand, although I would expect, we're expecting Treasury guidance on the use of those funds, hopefully this week. We do not have those funds in hand, but we are prepared to draw those funds down at our earliest opportunity, so we're ready to do that. We also talked about customer satisfaction surveys, which for the past year, you can imagine, was not quite such a focus area for us. And as we start to return more to normal, we will return to that focus on making sure that we do a good job of asking our customers how well we're doing and collecting data to support that. And then finally, we got an overview of the benefit changes for 2022. Resource Training and Solutions is going out to bid, so we don't know what that's going to mean for our benefit changes yet at this point, but do expect that that will drive some changes for 2022, so more to come on that. Happy to answer any questions that you might have about that or anything else related to county government.
Any questions for the administrator? Seeing none.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I do have a request for board action in your packet. It is to reappoint John Taylor as the City of Deerwood representative on the Serpent Lake Sanitary Sewer District Board. His term would expire at the end of December in 2024. Further, to appoint Jim Trailer to replace Buzz Neprud as the City of Crosby representative on the Serpent Lake Sanitary Sewer District Board of Directors. That term would also expire at the end of 2024. And further, that we would supply a certificate of appreciation for Mr. Neprud for his service to Crow Wing County.
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Hoag makes the motion to approve the reappointment and the appointment.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Franzine. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine, Commissioner Barrows.
Chair votes aye. Any additional business? I do have some things, and I bring up these items because this is our last meeting of this month, and we don't meet until second week of May. So just a couple things to put in your minds here is May will be Mental Health Awareness Month, and that each year millions of Americans face the reality of living with mental illness. And during May, Crow Wing County joins the NAMI organization in the national movement to raise awareness about mental health. And each year, we fight stigma, provide support, educate the public, and advocate for policies that support people with mental illness and their families. And now more than ever, I think if we look at the COVID situation, we need to find ways to stay connected with our community. And no one should feel alone or without the information, support, and help they need. And for 2021, NAMI is amplifying the message of you're not alone. So please keep that in mind. May is also National Foster Care Month, and it's time to recognize that we can play a part in enhancing the lives of children and youth in foster care. We take time to thank those that work helping with children in need of homes, and thank our foster care families who open their hearts and homes for the children in our communities. Thirdly, National
Whoops.
Third
I thought it was
Shift
my time to say something, so.
National Third Shift Workers Day is May 12th. And when I think of our county organization, I think of our 911 individuals, I think of our officers that are out there working overnight. But there are many organizations that have businesses that have overnight staff. So let's remember them. They're a forgotten group. I used to work nights, and I know how forgotten we are. We eat supper at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we eat eggs and bacon at 10 o'clock at night. So it's an interesting shift to have to operate under. And finally, the National Nurses Week begins each year on May 6th and ends on May 12th, which is Florence Nightingale's birthday. And Nurses Week is an annual celebration of nurses worldwide for the work, celebration of nurses worldwide for the work they do for others. And the week allows people the chance to acknowledge the nurses in their lives. We know they've played an important role in the last 15, 16 months, but in our entire lives, nurses play an important role. So let's not forget to thank them when we have the opportunity. And with that, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion. I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Coring, with his troop of birds, makes the motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hoag. All of those in favor? I guess we can't chirp as one, so Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine,
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows.
Chair votes aye. We are now adjourned. Thank you very much.